And coming up this weekend at Westminster Mall, the Newport Harbor Orchid Society is having their wonderful Summer Exotic Plant and Orchid Show. And Friday, Saturday, and Sunday up there in Westminster. Joe Rupp is with me, and this is a wonderful event. You do this every year. You usually do, what, a couple events each year?
We do one in February, and we also do one in the summer, either July or August, depending upon the schedule. But they're fun shows, and there are a lot of really interesting orchids. And this year, this summer, we have other displays as well. There's a really magnificent bonsai display that the Vietnamese put on.
Yeah.
They're beautiful plants. Some of these are just the most creative things. And then there's an art display as well. But it isn't just an orchid show.
Now, you have orchids here today, and I know that we'll get to that one in just a minute, but this is something that's very different, very, kind of special here.
It's often called a kite orchid because it looks like a kite in flight. But these particular orchids, it's called a Mazdavalia, and the type is Vechiana. It's a plant that grows up in the Andes, up in near
And I never would have guessed that.
Machu Picchu, up around 9,000 feet.
Yeah, I just, honestly, I would never guess that you'd have a type of orchid growing that way. But, that's amazing.
These generally follow a certain type of pattern in terms of growth. They don't like a lot of light. They like to be kept moist. They need constant air movement. So it's difficult to bloom them unless there's a lot of air movement around them. So they're not an easy plant to grow, but when they bloom, they're just magnificent.
Yeah, they are. Now, this one looks like, to me, I mean, it's absolutely beautiful, but more of what I would think was an orchid.
Yeah, this is an orchid called Alalia cattleya Miss Wonderful.
Okay.
And it's really a combination or a cross between Alalia cattleya and an Alalia anceps. The anceps part, which is a species, tends to produce very long flower spikes like this.
Okay.
But they're magnificent plants, and it's fragrant, and it stays in bloom for quite some time.
Yeah, I noticed that. Even I have a few at home, and they're the kinds usually my wife would get them as a teacher, and they usually come probably from Trader Joe's and places like that. But it is amazing how long the blooms will last.
Well, I have a kind of a theory about that. I believe the longer it takes for a flower to develop, or for a plant to develop what we call a flower spike and produce blooms, the longer they stay in bloom. But like the Phalaenopsis that you're talking about, they call them a moth orchid. That particular plant stays in bloom for months at a time. But it takes months for it to develop that, to get to the point where it's in bloom.
Right, right. So. And it's, that's what I love about them. And, speaking of exotic plants and things like that, I have some hibiscus in my yard. And they're beautiful. They're like, all these gorgeous, they're not the standard hibiscus. But they bloom, and 3 days later, they're gone.
Yeah. I had an orchid at one time that I purchased. I waited a whole year for it to bloom, and it finally bloomed. And 3 days later, the blooms were gone. And I thought, I've waited a whole year for this. And it was such a disappointment.
Yeah. So as far as the upkeep of orchids, now, you've shown me just by these two how vastly different they are. And I guess some are good for indoor, some outdoor. Can some take direct sunlight? There's so many varieties.
Most plants don't thrive in direct sunlight because, at least in Southern California, it gets so hot. Most of them would prefer to have some kind of indirect light or dappled light, filtered light. This particular plant likes a lot of light because of the type of plant it is. This doesn't require very much at all.
Okay.
Most plants, pardon me?
What about heat? If you have these outdoors, let's say they're in dappled light or even part shade, especially in the afternoon, if it's 90 degrees out or 100 degrees for 2 or 3 days?
You'd want to keep it in a pretty shady area.
Okay, all right.
If you can put it in a shady area and maybe get a fan on it or put it where it's going to be breezy, it'll help an awful lot.
Okay.
If there is no air movement and it is hot, and dry, it's going to be tough on the plant.
Okay, watering, what about that? I know mine are sitting on the window box in our kitchen.
Yeah.
And normally this time of year, once a week, I will give them a good soaking. Maybe just, pour into like a container like this, fill it with water, let it sit there for a couple hours, and then pour all the excess water out. And I do that about once a week during the summer.
It's a good idea to keep them hydrated.
Okay.
It's not a good idea to feed them tap water constantly without leaching the salts that accumulate out of the soil.
And I've done that before.
Yeah.
I hold them under the tap water. Yeah.
And that helps because tap water has an awful lot of salt in it.
Yeah.
And so it accumulates in the plant, and what will typically happen is the tip of the leaf will start to turn brown, which is where the salts are accumulating.
Okay.
And it's
That's
not
good to
healthy
know
for the
because
plant,
often when you buy them at the store, they come like this, and you pick them up, and it's almost like a plastic cup that they're in with its perforations at the bottom. So I'm worried that if I keep a little too much water in there, that's probably not good either.
Usually those plants that you buy at Trader Joe's, for example, are potted in moss.
Yeah.
And that moss holds an awful lot of moisture.
Okay.
So it takes quite a long time, especially in the wintertime, for that moss to dry up.
Okay.
So it's a good idea to get a sense for when the plant is on the dry side by just picking it up. If it feels light,
that's kind of what I do.
Yeah, if it feels light, water it.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, let it go a few
So what
more
I'm
days.
doing is okay?
Oh, absolutely. It's fine.
All right.
So it
Very
sounds
good.
like
Hey, I want to remind everyone again, this is happening Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at the Westminster Mall. And each day, Friday it's at 10 to 9, Saturday 10 to 8, and Sunday 11 to 6. It's in the mall, so it's free parking, free to get in. And you're going to learn a lot. It's not just orchids. It's just a wonderful show.
we're also conducting potting classes.
Oh, that's good, yeah.
2 o'clock on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And it's $6, and you get to learn how to repot an orchid, and you can take it home with you.
All right, very good. And if you go to their website, nhosinfo.org, there's also some videos there that you can watch, even how to divide certain orchids, and a lot of information.
There's some beautiful plants there. There truly are. And some of these vendors are international vendors. I think we have one from China.
Really good. Joe, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
For coming on. Beautiful flowers. And again, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at Westminster Mall. We'll be right back.